Let me ask you something. You have two people, same age, same income, same job, same city. Person A has saved $100,000. Person B has saved $300,000. Obviously, person B is doing better. That part is simple. But here's the question nobody asks. 3 times the money. Does that mean 3 times the future? Because if you think the answer is yes, if you think wealth just scales in a straight line, then you're missing the single most important concept in personal finance. And that gap in your understanding, it is quietly costing you years of your life. Today, we're going to look at the real math. Not theories, not inspiration, the exact numbers that show you what happens when compounding stops being a concept and starts being a force you can feel. Stay until the end, because the moment I'm going to show you, the moment compounding takes over, will change how you look at every financial decision you make from this point forward. Here is how most people think about money. They think linearly. If I have twice as much money, I get twice the result. If I invest for twice as long, I end up with twice as much. If I save an extra $100 a month, I get $100 more. That is called linear thinking. And it is completely wrong when it comes to investing. Money, when invested, does not grow in a straight line. It grows exponentially. And the difference between those two things, between linear and exponential, is so enormous that most people cannot even picture it until you show them the numbers. Think about this. If you fold a piece of paper in half 10 times, it is about as thick as your hand. Still linear. You can still picture it. But if you fold that same piece of paper 42 times, it would reach from the earth to the moon. Same paper, same action, just more of it. That is compounding. And the same thing happens to your money, but only if you understand when the growth becomes nonlinear. Only if you understand the difference between $100,000 and $300,000, not as a math problem, but as a turning point. Let me show you exactly what that turning point looks like. Let's set up the scenario. We're going to use real, conservative numbers. Both people invest their money. They do not touch it. They let it grow in a diversified index fund that returns an average of 8% per year. That is actually below the historical long-term average of the S&P 500. No additional contributions. We're purely looking at what the starting amount does on its own. Person A, $100,000 starting balance. Person B, $300,000 starting balance. Year 1. Person A earns $8,000 in interest. Total, $108,000. Person B earns $24,000 in interest. Total, $324,000. Difference, $224,000. Still just 3 times the money. Year 10. Person A, $215,892. Person B, $647,677. Difference, $431,785. Still roughly 3 times. Year 20. Person A, $466,096. Person B, $1,398,289. Still close to 3 times. Now here is where it starts to shift. Year 25. Person A, $684,847. Person B, $2,054,543. Year 30. Person A, $1,006,265. Person B, $3,018,797. Still roughly 3 times. So far, nothing dramatic. 3 times in, 3 times out. Linear thinking looks correct. But now watch what happens in the next 10 years. Year 40. Person A, $2,100,000 $172,452. Person B, $6,517,357. Year 50. Person A, $4,690,161. Person B, $14,070,485. Person B now has nearly $9.4 million more than Person A. Not 3 times more. 3 times 3, nearly 9 times more in absolute dollars. The ratio stays the same, but the dollar gap, the actual money, has exploded. This is what compounding looks like when you look at the absolute numbers instead of the ratio. Person A and Person B are both growing at the same rate. But because Person B started with more, every single percentage gain produces a larger and larger absolute reward. The rich do not just stay rich. Their wealth accelerates. But I promised you a specific moment, a turning point. So let's find it. There's a concept in investing called the snowball point. The moment when your investment is growing faster in absolute dollars per year than you could ever realistically save from your income. For the average person earning $50,000 a year, saving a reasonable 20% means saving $10,000 per year. Person A at $100,000 invested at 8%, earning $8,000 per year from growth. That is less than what they could add by working. Their job still matters more than their portfolio. Person B at $300,000 invested at 8%, earning $24,000 per year from growth. That is more than 2 times what an average person saves annually. Their money is already working harder than they are. But it gets more dramatic. Let us watch what happens over time. At year 10, Person A is earning $17,271 per year from compounding. Their portfolio is now outpacing their savings rate. At year 10, Person B is earning $51,814 per year from compounding. Their money is earning more annually than many full-time salaries. This is the snowball point. This is when compounding takes over. For a person, it happens around year 10 to 12, depending on their savings rate. For Person B, it happened before the clock even started. They were already past the point of no return. This is why the difference between $100,000 and $300,000 is not just $200,000. It is the difference between being in the race and having already crossed a threshold that most people spend their entire lives trying to reach. Let me say that again. Person B is not just richer. Person B has already crossed the snowball point. Their wealth is now self-sustaining in a way that Person A's is not. Yet, let me give you 2 people to make this real. Marcus is 35 years old. He has been a responsible earner his whole life. He earns well, saves consistently, and has built up $100,000 over 10 years. He is proud of that number. He should be. Most people never reach it. But Marcus thinks about money linearly. He sees his $100,000 and thinks, I need another $200,000 to match my colleague David. That is 2 more decades of saving. And he's exhausted by that idea. So he makes a decision that millions of people make. He buys a new car. He upgrades his apartment. He starts spending because, honestly, he has earned it. His $100,000 never compounds into the snowball phase. It stays flat. It grows slowly. And 20 years later, Marcus has $466,000 and wonders why wealth still feels out of reach. David did something different at 25. He lived below his means for 5 years while his friends were buying cars and going on vacations. He ate the same meals. He drove the same old car. He wore the same clothes. And he built $300,000, not from a higher salary, from obsessive patience. At 35, David stops adding to his investments. He does not touch them. He just lets them grow. At 55, David has $1.4 million. At 65, David has $3 million. At 70, David has $4.5 million. David did not earn more than Marcus. He did not have a secret strategy. He did not pick winning stocks. He just understood one thing that Marcus missed, that the gap between $100,000 and $300,000 is not linear. It is a threshold. Let's go deeper into the math, because there is something even more interesting happening here. We said person A has $100,000 and person B has $300,000. 3 times the starting capital. In year 1, person B earns $16,000 more than person A. That difference gets reinvested. In year 2, that reinvested difference also earns 8%. Now, the gap is not just from the original difference. The difference itself is compounding. This is called the accelerator effect. It is the reason wealthy people's wealth grows faster and faster, not just in percentage terms, but in real dollar terms. The gap between person A and person B is itself compounding. At year 1, the gap grows by $1,280 from compounding on the difference. At year 10, the gap grows by $34,534 in a single year, just from compounding on the accumulated difference. At year 30, the gap grows by $161,264 in a single year. At year 50, the gap grows by $750,426 in a single year. $750,000 of gap growth. In 1 year, not from new contributions, not from market timing, just from a time value of starting with more. This is the law of compounding acceleration, and it is why starting strong matters infinitely more than starting smart. You can have the perfect strategy. You can pick the right funds. You can time everything correctly. But if you start at $100,000 instead of $300,000, the math has already determined a ceiling for you. Unless you are willing to give the machine more time. Time is the equalizer, but it requires patience that most people do not have. Okay, so you've seen the math. You understand the snowball point. You understand the accelerator effect. Now what? If you are at $100,000, here is what this video should mean for you. Path 1. Buy more time. You cannot teleport to $300,000 overnight, but you can compress time. Every extra year you give your portfolio without touching it is an extra year of acceleration. If person A gives their money 50 years instead of 30, their $100,000 becomes $4.69 million. Not far behind person B's 30-year outcome. Time is your lever. Stop spending it. Path 2. Feed the machine aggressively. Person A without contributions is slow. Person A with $500 per month added is a completely different story. $100,000 starting balance, plus $500 per month at 8% for 30 years. $2.18 million. That is not the $1 million you get without contributions. That is $1.17 million extra from $180,000 of total additional savings that generated nearly 7 times their contribution value. Feed the machine every month without fail. Path 3. Protect what you have built. The most dangerous moment in wealth building is the first time you feel rich. At $100,000, you feel like you have earned a reward. At $200,000, you feel invincible. At $300,000, the lifestyle inflation whispers loudly. This is where most people detour. They upgrade the car, the apartment, the holiday, the wardrobe, and in doing so, they step off the compound curve right before it was about to take off. Do not let lifestyle inflation steal your snowball point. The $300,000 person is not someone with a higher salary. They are someone who refused to spend their $100,000 moment. They kept going. They kept feeding the machine. They crossed the threshold quietly. And on the other side, they found a world that works completely differently. That world is available to you, but only if you understand that the race is not between you and your bank balance. The race is between you and time. Let me bring this back to where we started. Two people, same age, same income, same job. Person A, $100,000. Person B, $300,000. The difference is not 3 times the money. The difference is that person B has already crossed a line that, once crossed, means money starts making money faster than you can earn it. A line where your portfolio is your most productive employee. A line where the game changes. $100,000 is a remarkable achievement. It is more than most people ever save, and it is the beginning of everything. But $300,000 is where the machine turns on. The question is not whether you can get there. The question is whether you are willing to be patient enough, disciplined enough, and honest enough with yourself about lifestyle inflation to let your snowball reach the hill. Because once it does, no one, no bank, no employer, no economic downturn can take the momentum away from you. If this video made you think differently about the money you already have, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to understand exactly what happens when you start adding monthly contributions to the $100,000 baseline, that video is right here. I will see you there.